All right, let's just jump right in. Something really fundamental is shifting in the world of artificial intelligence. I mean, we're watching it evolve from just a simple tool we use into something more like an active agent that acts for us. And that one little change, it forces us to ask some completely new and pretty heavy questions about power and ultimately about our own responsibilities. So, for the longest time, right, we've all kind of thought of AI like this thing on the left, an AI that answers. You ask it a question, it spits back some information. Pretty simple. But we are now stepping into a whole new era, the one on the right, AI that acts. And the difference is huge. This is a system that doesn't just give you the recipe, it actually starts cooking the meal for you. Okay, so let's really dig into this first big idea, this huge shift from AI as a tool to AI as an agent. And really, this isn't just some small incremental step. We're talking about moving from an AI that just gives you answers to one that actively gets its hands dirty and takes on tasks in the real world. And you know what? This new evolutionary phase of AI, it already has a name, and it's showing up a lot faster than most of us realize. So it's probably time we all get familiar with this new category, what we're calling the rise of agentic AI. So what exactly is agentic AI? Well, here's the official definition from the OECD. And yeah, it sounds a little technical, right? A system of AI agents that cooperate, use tools, and operate with minimal human supervision. But I love how the source material puts it. The definition might seem kind of cold and academic, but its meaning is incredibly hot. It signals this massive, massive change in what we're about to expect from our technology. And this really gets to the heart of it. The key question we're asking is changing right under our feet. It's no longer just, hey, what answers does it give? Now the real question is, what does it decide? And what does it do on our behalf? The whole conversation has shifted. We're not just worried about the quality of information anymore. Now we have to grapple with the quality of an AI's decisions and the very real consequences of its actions. And look, don't make the mistake of thinking this is some sci-fi far-off future. Just look at these projections for 2025 from the OECD. We are talking about more than a third of individual users. And get this, a staggering 57.3% of tech companies are already adopting this kind of technology. This is not some distant trend. This is reality unfolding, like right now. You know, if you ever want to know where things are really heading, just follow the money. And in this case, wow, $35.3 billion in venture capital in just 1 year. That tells you everything you need to know, right? AI has totally graduated from being a cool novelty. This is now core infrastructure. It's serious industrial strategy. So all of this, the money, the rapid adoption, it all leads us to maybe the most critical part of this whole conversation. These new questions of power. I mean, with this much money and influence pouring into something so new, we're forced to ask a very old but very important question. Who is really in control here? You know, it's funny. These questions aren't entirely new. The economist Henry George asked these same kinds of things about land and wealth over a century ago, and they are more relevant today than ever. Who makes it, who gets it, and who is pushed away? Or, to put it another way, who builds this tech? Who really benefits from it? And whose job or whose voice gets silenced or pushed aside in the process? But here's the thing. In the age of agentic AI, those classic questions, they're not quite enough anymore. We have to add a whole new layer. And we can start with this one. Who actually has the authority here? I mean, who gives this system permission to act? Where does this power even come from? And then question 2, who's really controlling the automation? You know, who's behind the curtains setting the rules, defining the goals, and ultimately pulling the strings on automated decisions that could affect millions and millions of people? And finally, maybe the most important, most difficult question of all. Who bears the burden of failure? When one of these autonomous systems makes a mistake, and it will, when it fails, who is held accountable? Who has to carry that weight? Which brings us to the central point, the main thesis of this entire explainer. And it's this idea of the undelegatable responsibility. Because look, while we can, and we absolutely will, delegate countless tasks to AI, there is one thing we can never, ever, ever give away. The source material offers this really powerful way to think about it. Are we just going to be a manager of AI? You know, someone who just uses a tool however they please? Or are we going to be a steward?
someone who understands they've been entrusted with something powerful and has a duty to care for it, to oversee it, and to be responsible for what it does, right, until the very end.
This is really what it all boils down to. We can absolutely entrust AI with the process. Let it handle all the complex intermediate steps. Let it process the data, run the simulations, whatever. But that final seat of judgment, the one with the power to make the final call, the one with the off switch, that seat must always be occupied by a human.
Okay, so what does this look like in the real world, in practice? What are the specific responsibilities that we just have to keep for ourselves? Let's break down the 5 essential tasks that we as humans must hold on to in this new age.
All right, here they are, the 5 big ones that have to stay human. First, we have to be the ones to set the goal. Second, we have to define the limits, the boundaries, the ethical lines it cannot cross. Third, we have to monitor the process and see how it's actually doing. Fourth, and this is a big one, we have to bear the full responsibility for failure. And finally, number 5, and maybe most importantly, we must always, always retain the power to stop it, to pull the plug.
And here's exactly why this is so critical. Because the most dangerous phrase of this entire era might just be, the AI did it. Think about that. That phrase, it's a shield. It's an excuse. It's an attempt to duck responsibility. And as these systems get more and more powerful, allowing anyone to hide behind that simple phrase becomes exponentially more dangerous.
And so, we're going to end with this last thought, a question that turns the focus squarely back on you. As automation becomes a bigger and bigger part of your own work, your own life, I want you to really think about this. What are the responsibilities, the judgments, the core values that you will refuse to delegate? What are you holding on to?